Patriots Nation, hold on to this. The noise around A.J. Brown has already gone beyond the point where it feels like random chatter. There is a source. There is real expectation. There are people across the league looking toward Foxborough like something explosive could be coming. And it does not stop there. Drake Maye may finally have the stability he has never had. DeMario Douglas delivered his answer on the field, and Christian Elliss could be headed for an even larger role on this team. Hit that like button right now because today's conversation is loaded. No fear over here. When fans believe it, reporters believe it, players believe it, and an insider like Josina Anderson says a league source claims the Patriots collectively believe an A.J. Brown trade is happening. Nobody in this fan base is going to pretend this is just random off-season smoke. This feels like a major move drawing closer. It feels like a franchise looked at Drake Maye and decided it was finished playing games with half-speed development. That is when this conversation gets serious. Because A.J. Brown would not simply be another receiver arriving to fill a spot on the depth chart. He would change the way defenses see New England. He would change the confidence level of the offensive coordinator. He would indirectly protect Maye because when you have a target with that size, that power, and that level of respect, the defense on the other side cannot keep playing like the Patriots have no true threat outside. That is the part so many people who love doubting New England try to wave away. The Patriots do not just need good names. They need players who force opponents to adjust. They need someone who walks into the building and makes the opposing defensive coordinator lose sleep during the week. A.J. Brown is that type of problem. An expensive problem, a physical problem, a loud problem, but exactly the kind of problem a serious team brings in when it wants to speed up its own return. There is also the financial detail controlling the clock. A trade was unlikely before Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern because after that point Philadelphia could spread Brown's remaining dead cap hit across 2 years. That is not some small footnote. That is how negotiations move. That is the type of detail that explains why everybody seems to be waiting for the same door to open. The question that really divides the room is the price. A future first-round pick? A second-round pick with an established player included? Some creative package that lets Philadelphia sell the move without making it look like a retreat. That is where New England has to be aggressive but never desperate. There is a huge difference. Aggressive means recognizing Drake Maye needs elite firepower right now. Desperate means surrendering control of the future without fully measuring the cost. But if the right structure is on the table, I do not want to hear fear. I do not want to hear that tired old line about, the Patriots don't do that. Yes, they do, if this new regime is ready to send a brutal message to the AFC. The era of asking fans for endless patience is over. Foxborough is trying to become a destination again, not a permanent rebuilding site. And for Maye, that possible outside help comes alongside something that might be even rarer in his career: real stability. Because in the middle of all this anxiety about stars, trades, and instant impact, there is a quiet advantage that could completely change Drake Maye's season. For the first time in years, he is heading into a campaign with the same offensive coordinator. It may sound too simple to become a headline, but for a quarterback, that is oxygen. That is rhythm. That is the moment you stop relearning everything and finally start mastering it. Josh McDaniels is not leaving the building. And for Maye, that is enormous. He said it himself after the first OTA session opened to the media. Naturally, he is going to feel more comfortable in the huddle, calling the plays, understanding why those plays are being called, and living through another year in the same offense. Then came the line that really landed. He said this is the first time for him in maybe 4 years. 4 years. Plenty of people will fly right past that. Anybody who truly follows quarterback development hears that loud and clear. Maye did not have that continuity at the end of his time at North Carolina, and he did not have it at the beginning of his NFL life. While other young quarterbacks get to stack seasons inside the same language, with the same concepts, the same calls, and the same pre-snap adjustments, he had to battle through change, and New England knows exactly how much damage that can cause. Mac Jones went through multiple play callers, different structures, and a mess that disrupted a major part of his development. The Patriots could not repeat that mistake with Maye. Mike Vrabel had to protect the most important quarterback in the franchise. And that shocking Super Bowl run gave Robert Kraft even more reason to keep this staff together. This detail may not be as loud as a blockbuster trade, but it could be the kind of thing that separates a good young quarterback from a star who is ready to take over the league. The Maye-McDaniels connection already worked in 2025. It worked well enough to put Maye in the MVP conversation right behind Matthew Stafford. So now picture that same quarterback without having to start over. Picture Maye stepping into the huddle with faster processing, more command, more authority to fix protections, attack matchups, and understand the purpose of the play before the ball even leaves his hand. That is where the Patriots can turn dangerous. Young talent surrounded by instability becomes a promise. Young talent backed by continuity becomes a problem for the entire league. And in the middle of all this noise about giant names, there is one thing I think is way too risky: treating DeMario Douglas like he is disposable just because the Patriots might be building a heavier receiver room. That is the kind of mistake rushed teams make. And if New England truly wants to protect Drake Maye, it cannot start tossing aside a player who has already shown he can separate, create after the catch, and give the quarterback an escape valve when a play breaks down. Douglas did not have the best season of his career in 2025, that is true. A lot of people expected Josh McDaniels' presence to take his game to another level immediately, and it did not happen the way the fan base hoped. But reducing him to that one point is lazy analysis. He is still a proven target for Maye. He still has that short area burst. He still carries that frustrating profile for a defense. The guy who vanishes between zones, pops open over the middle, and turns an ordinary play into a meaningful gain. That is exactly why his strong OTA debut matters. It does not settle the roster battle. It does not erase the competition. But it changes the tone of the discussion. Because if trade talk was starting to build around him, his answer had to come on the field. And it did. Now he has to stack practices, show consistency, and force this staff to view him not as a leftover, but as a weapon. Max Loeb calling Douglas one of the most underrated receivers in the AFC belongs in this conversation too. And honestly, it makes complete sense. Since arriving in 2023, he has continued beating expectations. He is not the biggest. He is not the flashiest. He is not the first name a national analyst is going to yell about. But the Patriots cannot build a roster with poster players alone. They need function. They need fit. They need guys who make life easier for the quarterback on third down, on quick routes, and on short reads. And if A.J. Brown really does arrive, that does not erase Douglas from the picture. It could make him more valuable. Brown drawing attention outside, defenses worrying about power, size, and contested catches, while Douglas works in space against uncomfortable matchups, attacking the middle. That is an offense with layers. That is giving Maye legitimate options. So if somebody wants to trade Douglas, the answer cannot be automatic. It has to be cold, hard, and calculated. Because sometimes the player who looks small in the national conversation is exactly the detail that keeps a season alive when December football arrives. And this next story may not have the shine of A.J. Brown or the immediate impact of Drake Maye finally receiving offensive continuity, but it says plenty about the kind of roster the Patriots are trying to build. Christian Elliss has turned into a name nobody should treat like a footnote. This guy entered the league undrafted in 2021, spent a massive portion of the early part of his career living on special teams, was released 6 times in his first 3 seasons, and still made it to a point where New England may need him more than ever. Last season, Elliss set career highs with 94 tackles and 13 starts. That is not empty production. For a linebacker who has had to battle for every inch of respect in this league, that shows adjustment, toughness, and most importantly, trust from the staff. And now there is one ingredient that can change everything: continuity. He told Mark Daniels of Mass Live that this is the first time in a long time he is entering a second straight year in the same system. No relearning the playbook, no decoding a new defense from scratch, no feeling like he is already starting behind because the coaching staff changed again. For a player at his position, that is massive. Linebacker is about reading, anticipating, and reacting. When a player stops overthinking and begins playing faster, the entire defense feels it. And the Patriots created room for that opportunity. Jack Gibbons, Jelani Tavai, and Marte Mapu all left during the spring. New names arrived to provide depth, like rookie Nnamdi Obiazor and free agent KJ Britt, but the logic is simple. The guy who has been inside the building, the guy who has played important snaps, and the guy who already knows the rhythm of Foxborough has the inside track. Now comes the demand. If Elliss wants to turn a great story into a serious role in this defense, 2026 cannot simply be a repeat of 2025. It has to be an evolution. More presence against the run, more command and communication, more plays that flip possessions, more impact on big Sundays. Because with Vrabel, nobody earns space just because people love the story. You earn it with contact, execution, and trust. And I want to hear from this fan base in the comments. Do you trust Christian Elliss as a bigger piece of this defense? Or do you still think the Patriots need to bring in another heavyweight linebacker? Because that answer could say a lot about how strongly New England truly believes in its own foundation. When you pull the whole day together, the picture is clear. The Patriots are surrounded by decisions that separate a patient franchise from a dangerous one. A Jay Brown would be ammunition for Drake Maye. Continuity with Josh McDaniels could deliver the mental leap Maye has never had. DeMario Douglas is the reminder that smart depth wins games too. Christian Elliss proves that stability can turn a survivor into a serious piece. Now New England has to choose the size of its own ambition. If you want to follow every signal of this turn in Foxborough, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay right here, because this team is close to making serious noise.